Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. Pasta Jardula here.
And I'm Fiorella.
And Johnny Sue is on the ones and twos. And if you can bring that energy every show,
oh my God. You know, I was interviewed yesterday by Warren, Uncle Warren, like Extra Bulla on Twitter too. And so he did a whole little segment. I don't know if you saw it, but he did a whole little segment of our interaction. And he's like, this is one of the reasons I love the Convo Couch. And it's just like our back and forth, me making fun of you and you being extra. And I guess people love that shit. And I'm like, this is 100% genuine. Pasta literally annoys me. Like, he literally, I'm not making this up. I'm not AOC. You know, I'm not putting on an act. Pasta is extra. He drinks too much coffee sometimes. And yeah. And I had coffee today. Obviously, you can tell because I'm a little bit more animated today. But I try not to drink too much coffee because I'm normally a chill person, okay?
Let's rewind a little bit. It's not that I'm too much extra. It's that water upsets fucking Fiorella. Like the littlest thing. She'll pick a fight with the sun.
No, I won't.
The air. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Bullshit. Like, I'm like such a chill person. I get along with like everybody.
Oh my God, why don't you do something about these flies? Oh my God.
I don't, first of all, I do not sound like that. Second of all,
okay,
I don't complain about
flies. The littlest
flies.
things upset you.
No.
That's the truth.
No.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of.
Think we're like married.
You don't have a lot of patience. Because they see what I put up with, and they feel something. They're like, they must be married.
No. People tell me,
no man would put up with that crap that is given to him.
People tell me that I put up with a lot. Like, they couldn't do it. Like, I'm just saying.
Those are your little.
Anyway, you guys should watch that
friends,
because
your little cheerleading section. They're gonna comfort you and say, "Oh my God, Fee, how do you do it?" No, most people go, "Pasta, damn." Whew. Wow,
I don't think so. But
they must be
we
married.
Could probably do
what
a
man
show.
would put up with that from a business partner?
We're not married, but it's funny. People think we are, or
because we start off the show and you give me shit about just saying my name.
That tells you a lot about how marriages are in America.
That's how it is.
That's really sad.
Do people? Hi, honey, go fuck off. All right, love you. By the way, Trey Wright, first in the door. Love you all.
So we were watching the Arizona audit release. We're going to be covering that Monday. Pasta's going to watch all the full 6 hours. I can't promise I will watch all the full 6 hours.
No, you probably won't. It's going to be nauseating. It's going to be boring.
They were already doing their whole, the socialist.
Well, I mean, the coverage the people who are covering it, the Right Side broadcast, of course, they started
That's their name, the Right
Side. To beat back the socialist agenda. It's like, stop. I got nauseous when all the Democrats were Russia. The other day, Marjorie Taylor Greene would blame China. Like, stop it already, guys.
Give me a second. I'm going to share our stuff on Facebook.
You share it on Facebook, and I'll talk. By the way, it opened up with Dr. Shiva, who was verifying the signatures. He did a signature verification on the mail-in ballots, the absentee ballots. So they started off the whole thing like that. Now, there was some information that was leaked to the press, and they went out there and put it out there. Biden won for a fourth time or something, what they're saying, which is something that's going to probably come through when they have the final numbers. The whole thing, which I'm assuming that there'll be there'll be a discrepancy, is the actual validity of the ballots. Where did they come from? Who signed them? Remember, there's an all-volunteer group out there right now with Liz Harris, her name is, and they are canvassing. They're going door to door, knocking on doors from the poll booklets, saying, how long have you lived here? How many ballots did you get? Does this person live here? Yada, yada, yada. So that independent report would come back. At the end of the day, I like the way that Karen Pham, the senator, the way she opened up. She said, listen, when this whole process started, we did a poll. 40% of the people in Arizona thought that our election systems were caca. They didn't trust them. So I went to the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors and said, why don't we work on this together? Let's pick a team together. Let's pick an auditing team. And they pretty much wanted to have the same company that verifies the machines to do the audit. Karen Pham and the Senate said, no, let's pick someone else. Then they said, screw you, we'll sue you. It went back and forth. So then they went through this whole process, and still in a situation where Karen Pham has reported, that's the senator who's in charge, the Arizona state senator, she has still reported that Maricopa County still did not comply and give over everything that was in the subpoenas. So they have that situation. But she did open up and say, Pham, this is not about overturning the election. Listen, all you guys out there, Josh Bernstein and all you dudes in Arizona who think that they're going to go back, and I love you, brother, but if you think they're going to go back and overturn this election, it's not about that. It's about getting our elections straight for the future. So I encourage people to go watch it so you can understand the framework and how things work, every aspect of it. You should understand that. Where did the ballots come from? How did the signatures go? How are they mailed? Where can they be picked up from? What's the chain of custody once they come from the ballot boxes? How is the machines tabulated? How is that looked upon? Still proprietary software. So there's so much information that's coming out, and it's crazy the way the Democrats, Jen Psaki this morning, fam,
right,
already start talking shit. It confirmed what we already knew, that Biden won for the fourth time.
Right. They're like, so the liberal media is saying it widened the margin
yes.
For Biden. So Biden got more votes. And of course, a lot of progressives are like, ha ha ha, this is idiots, and they can be prosecuted, and they're making fun of them. But it's a lot more nuanced and deeper than that. I get really mad at the right wingers when they put in their ideology, the same way I get mad at the liberals when they put in their ideology, because this is not about their ideology. It's the same fucking issue when we're talking about COVID or mandates and stuff. When people bring in their ideology, it's that whole thing. So we're going to be talking more about that, but we can get into this segment now, fam.
All right. So Trey Wright, love you all. I want to point out somebody special. Trey Wright again, easily angry and not chill. Pasta isn't describing Fee. He's describing me. I love you. Rocky Bellinger, in through the door. Rocky, thank you so much for joining the show. You're going to probably disagree with this first part. You can reach out to us, call us personally. Rocky's one of our longest loyalist fans. We are aloha friends and stuff. But obviously there's a little discrepancy right now. And I just want to point this out again, fam, because it's kind of a little bit rough. People are like, you all right, Pasta? I'm like, yeah, because you get attacked by people that you said, I love, your friends, and now they're upset. But we got to be honest in our assessment, fam. We got to give honest criticism when we see it, and we're going to call it out. And it doesn't make a difference who it is. And I think you've said on this show more than 1,000 times, stop praising politicians,
idealizing them to the point where you think like they can do no wrong, right? They know better than you. I don't even like hearing that from people, that I think this person knows better than me, because that's been our problem in society in America, that they deem everybody too stupid, and you deem yourself too stupid to know what's going on. And you have to get that whole thought out of your head, because a lot of these politicians don't know what to do. They don't know more than we do. In fact, we know more than them. And that's why this is a problem. And it's not sometimes that they don't know, it's that there are interests that they are working on the behalf of certain interests that they need to adhere to over what is actually good for the public. Politicians will always be politicians first. They're not going to be your friends. So again, I think this whole year and a half has taught us, that we can't rely on any politician. I mean, from AOC to Bernie Sanders, are you kidding me? I understand the devastation some people feel with Tulsi. Like, I understand the disappointment. I felt that for Bernie Sanders when he started, going the way he did several times. I mean, I felt it the first time in 2016, and then in 2020, it was just absolutely gut-wrenching the way the campaign was operating and the way everything happened. I was devastated. I mean, I went on Jimmy Dore and and talked about that whole video I did, because it was just devastating to I get it, dude. I get it. You invested so much. It's time to fucking move on. I will give people a grieving period, because I understand, like, it's like, and nobody's telling you on this show in particular, nobody's asking you to cancel anybody, right? Just simply be aware that you need to hold them to account whenever they're wrong. And there are facts that are indisputable. Just like one of those facts is that we do not in this country have an open border policy, period, end of story. We do not at all. And the conversation always shifts there when it comes to conservatives saying that Democrats want that. The reality is Joe Biden is deporting more people than Donald Trump did. More people already in his first year. So it's kind of
I'll give you one better, fam. He's deported more Haitians already than Donald Trump did in 4 years.
Yep.
How about that? And
those are facts that are undeniable. Those are numbers that are undeniable. It's not me wanting that to be true. It is what it is.
Yeah. And seeing people trying to, it's different because his policy is letting him in, and then he has to deport him. Whereas if they kept him on the Mexico side of the border, and that's why they didn't have to deport him as much. And people are using that fucking talking point. But at the end of the day, when it came to Tulsi Gabbard, when it came to the Congresswoman, it was about looking at the major problem outside, the real problem, where it's coming from, not the Band-Aid solution. That's our foreign policy. That's our interference. That's our regime change wars, which cause chaos and destruction in these countries, forcing them to flee, coming up to the United States. And at the end of the day, wouldn't you, if I was Haitian and they ruined my country, I'd show up on your doorstep too and say, hey man, you've interfered with our country so many times, you've interfered with our government, our presidents, and now our country's crazy. It's your responsibility. That's why I've always been like, when people are going like, what do you think, it's still okay to let these people in? Excuse me, what happened to individual responsibility on a macro level? Shouldn't we take responsibility for our foreign policy? If we cause chaos in a country and we destabilize a country, shouldn't we be responsible for those people who flee here because we caused that chaos in the first place? So I want to get into this too as well, because it's kind of interesting, because a lot of people, we've had recently Cynthia McKinney on the show. And I found a video that Doug, I think his name is Dave DeBar, or Don DeBar. I've seen him on RT's Crosstalk so many times. The guy does a lot of great reporting, whatnot. He was at this UN Council almost about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, when then President of Iran, Ahmadinejad, came to New York and met with peace activists, anti-war activists. Well, of course, they chose Cynthia McKinney to go and speak, and I think this is so great because here she is, she's removed from office, they got her out, but yet she's still carrying the flag for peace, saying, let's go, we have to find a way for peace, and this is the way I want us to deal with Iran. One of the big things, the reasons that I was really pissed off on September 11th with Tulsi's comment, is that she lumped in Iran with this whole group, which to me is geopolitically kind of saber-rattling of sorts, and that is no bueno.
It seems kind of pandering to Zionists as well.
A little bit. I don't want to know. I once again, she didn't see these words, but that's why it was disturbing. So let's take a look at Cynthia McKinney talking to this council where then the president, and they had a beautiful, this is in the Warwick Hotel in New York, they gave a beautiful Persian feast, and the way they introduced her, they were like, she's a fighter for Palestine, and everybody was clapping. The Iranian Commission knew exactly who she was. She's well respected. She's an advocate for peace, and she's still an advocate for peace. So here's Cynthia McKinney. Let's get this rolling.
All of the peace activists gathered here this evening, it is an honor and my pleasure to be with you this evening on the occasion of the International Day of Peace. What we have learned is that it is one thing to have a day, it is quite another to have peace. But I know that everyone in this room is committed first and foremost to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Later, thank you.
And if it were observed by every member state of the United Nations, we could truly celebrate a world in peace. In fact, our former president, John F. Kennedy, cited the topic of world peace as the most important topic on earth. Sadly, not only are we not on the path of peace today, incredibly, we on the path of global conflagration. John Kennedy's admonition is more relevant today than ever. He asked, what kind of peace do we seek? And answered his own question this way: not a Pax Americana enforced on the world by American weapons of war, not the peace of the grave or the security of the slave. I'm talking about genuine peace, the kind of peace that makes life on earth worth living, the kind that enables men and nations to grow and to hope and to build a better life for their children. Not merely peace for Americans, but peace for all men and women. Not merely peace in our time, but peace for all time. At no other time in the life of our country were the forces for justice and peace so strong. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. reminded us that the arc of the moral universe bends toward justice. John Kennedy pulled back from war against Castro's Cuba. Malcolm X excited Black America, made Hajj, and broke bread with Dr. King. Bobby Kennedy shocked the conscience of this country and made the impoverished blacks of the Mississippi Delta and the impoverished whites of Appalachia a part of the same American dream. He also shocked the world by speaking against apartheid, not from the comfort of this country, but inside South Africa. And young people inside this country of different races, ethnicities, languages, and incomes united and pressed for justice for Puerto Rico, Mexico, Native Americans, Black Americans, against apartheid in South Africa, and for peace in Vietnam. We, the Popular Front, almost won. But we know how...
Fam, what'd you think about that right off the jump?
I thought it was awesome when she mentioned how Bobby Kennedy united, the black population in Mississippi and the South, impoverished. One of the most impoverished parts still to this day of the country is the South, and united them with the Appalachia. I mean, that's also Fred Hampton and the YPO and the Rainbow Coalition. It's along those lines of unity. And again, anybody that preaches some sort of unity of the working class across racial, religious, ethnic differences is a threat to the status quo. The people that push disunity and division are those people that are really you have to watch. And she spoke to that, and she spoke about what it means, peace, what really is peace. It's not just one sector, it's the whole thing on the macro sense.
Yeah, I can't wait till she comes on the show, fam, and you get to talk to her about her trips in Israel and what she witnessed over there, especially with everything so relevant. I'm waiting for her to confirm a time, but she's definitely down to do that. She said she'd love to talk to you about it, fam, and it's going to be exciting when we get that done. But to me, the thing that was so great is that here she is. She's been removed from office. She doesn't play politics. She's sticking to the same thing. Let me tell you something, fam. It really sucks that in the last campaign that my most important issue, and a lot of people's most important issues, what she talked about right there with global peace, because we can blow up this planet now about 17 times with the missiles we have in submarines alone. It's that crazy and stuff like that. But when it comes to people's interest in voting, it's just a small percentage. But that didn't stop Cynthia from making sure that she got that message out there. This should be one of the most important things, right? I mean, it was a little bit more at the heart and the center when they were teaching kids duck and cover to get underneath their chairs because a bomb could come. Now I think there's a sense of American safety and exceptionalism, that it's not going to come home to them. Right. You know what I'm saying? And therefore they don't pay attention to it as much. But the way she picked it up and marched on with this message, and here she is meeting with a delegate. Now, you know how many people were chastised for going to this, for meeting with the Iranian president at the time, Ahmadinejad? Oh my God, forget about it. Oh, you anti-Semitic assholes. How could you go do that?
To this day, she is smeared as an anti-Semite.
Yes, and she doesn't care. She's going to go talk to peace. Okay. Now, the last part, which is just a couple minutes more, we got to listen to, because then she talks about what happens about those, like Fred Hampton, who do advocate for peace.
Exactly.
How that chapter ends. JFK with his brains blown out. Malcolm X betrayed from within the nation. Martin Luther King Jr. surrounded by snipers and U.S. military intelligence on his last day alive, while those closest to him were on the FBI payroll. Bobby Kennedy lying in a pool of his own blood after winning the California primary on the road to the White House. The major lesson we must learn and never forget is that those who want to wage war abroad are also willing to wage it at home. So what are we to do? Undaunted, we must organize a peace lobby. A peace lobby grounded in love and truth and respect and human dignity. And we must reach across humanity, setting aside what others have successfully used in the past to divide us. Do I believe it can be done? Absolutely, I believe it can be done. But we cannot allow ourselves to be tricked into believing that the ones who got us into war are going to be the ones to lead us out of it. The peace activists in this room understand all of this and also know that if we fail to act now, who will? Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak this evening.
Yeah. You said preach. Say it again.
Preach.
There you go. Top of the food chain, ladies and gentlemen. The last civil servant, right?
I believe so.
The last one to say that's it. No matter what, I'm going to take it to the mat. You know, and the thing that really stood out to me is when she said we can't let the people who led us into war be the ones to think that they're going to be the ones that lead us out of it. In other words, the same tactics we used before that propagate and inflame war, we can't use them now. And that's why, as we get closer to going into what Tulsi's doing right now, was so bothering to me.
Right.
Drone strikes. When people said, "Oh, she was for drone strikes a long time ago," I thought she was there for as if it was almost like a compromise. Like, okay, well, I'm not going to strip the military completely down. It's going to be really a fallacy to think that we're going to close all these bases and come home. All right, so I mean, and that's bending the rules to make an excuse for her that I probably shouldn't have made. But however, I was trying to be pragmatic.
Right, and that's the thing, and that's what they say, right? They say you need to be pragmatic, you need to be realistic. And again, Bernie Sanders supports drone use too, and we made exceptions for him as well. Yeah. And maybe we shouldn't have. That's the thing, because it's so general and vague. What do you mean by that? What do you mean? Like, what exceptions, right? And you know what, Pasta, I really loved what she said about them bringing waging war here, because that's exactly what's happening right now at this very moment. They're waging war against the working class. They're waging war against you and I, and that's what's happening. And I think it's amazing that she actually said that. Like, you know, and again, Cynthia McKinney is not in Congress anymore, but understand why she's not in Congress.
Absolutely. And when we talk about what happened at the border, let's look at the proper way to criticize what happened at the border. Once again, you must always keep your eye on the prize. What is the cause and effect? Why are these Haitian people coming here through South and Central America to come to America? So, Johnny, if you can put this tweet on real quick. This is how you criticize what's going on the border. Not Trump's policy is better than Biden's. That's irrelevant. The root cause of the problem, imperialism. And she puts it right here. I'm going to bring it up myself. I don't even have it myself ready. Look at me. Hey, Hillary, where's the $13 billion given for Haiti? How's that gold mine in Haiti that you stole for your brother working out for you? How's your bought and paid for presidents that you've installed working for you? Hey, Joe, where's the justice? That is the root cause of the problem. And the Clintons have a lot to do with this. And
Absolutely.
Joe Biden was in office while this was going on. This isn't just, this shit happened the other day and Haitians showed up at our door. This is years of instability, of puppet governments planted by people like the Clintons, where Joe Biden was okay with it and stuff like that. This has nothing to do with what fucking policy is better. Let's keep them on this side of the border or that side of the border. Why are they coming here? Cynthia McKinney is always consistent on telling us why.
100%. I mean, yeah, that was a Pasta rant. But it's absolutely true. That's the root cause of every problem, and that's my issue with talking about something that isn't happening, which is an open border. Real quick, I just want to make sure we get this in. Johnny, you have the definition of open borders, right? Because this is going to play into what we're going to talk about. So if you want to go over that real quick, because we need to define that so we know. Please.
So what's up?
What's up?
Open borders, definitions, pro and cons. So I just want to kind of pull this up. This is from April 24th, 2021. Open border policies allow people to move freely between countries or political jurisdictions with no restrictions. A country's borders may be open because the government has either no border control laws by choice or because it lacks the resources needed to enforce immigration control laws. The term open borders does not apply to the flow of goods and services to the boundaries or to the boundaries between privately owned properties. So key takeaways: open borders, the term, refers to government policies allowing immigrants to enter this country with little or no restriction. Another key takeaway is that borders may be open due to the absence of border control laws or the lack of resources needed to enforce such laws. Mm-hmm. Open borders are the opposite of closed borders, which bar the entry of foreign nationals except under extraordinary circumstances. So here it says, in the strictest sense, the term open border implies that people may travel to and from a country without presenting a passport, visa, or another form of legal documentation. It does not, however, imply that the new immigrants will automatically be granted citizenship. In addition to fully open borders, there are two other types of international borders classified according to the degrees of openness. So there's conditionally open borders, who allow people who meet a legally established set of conditions to freely enter the country. And then there's controlled borders. Countries with controlled borders place restrictions, sometimes significant, on immigration. Today, the United States and a majority of developed nations have controlled borders.
Wait, it's not open, Johnny?
No, it's not open border. We don't have fucking open borders.
Why do they say that then?
I don't know why
I'll
she's
tell you
fucking
why.
saying that.
It's a fucking dog whistle.
Yep.
It's a dog whistle. You know, when I go back to Boca Raton, I'm going to hear all these people say, well, now that Biden's in office, it's open borders, so now these people are coming because they knew Trump would say no. And then you look at the deportation numbers and you're like, wait a second. Obama deported more people than Trump in his first 4 years. Biden has already deported more Haitians than Trump did in 4 years. Where are you guys getting this from? But both parties play this fucking game. They go back
in the media
and forth.
as well.
Yes. Instead of looking at the root problem, the thing that was always consistent about Tulsi was she pointed out the root problem. Let's end these wasteful regime change wars.
Yep.
That's where we were focused. Who gives a shit about the Band-Aid solutions? And I get it. Yeah, we got to deal with it now that it's on there, but you cannot deal with this properly until you deal with the root cause, and that is ending American imperialism, period.
So before you go on to the next thing, I just want to say, when a person lies, when a politician, and politicians are even worse because they have power. Tulsi's no longer in Congress.
And followers.
Yes.
But she's got a ton of followers. She's got a ton of influence, right? And so she's an ex-congresswoman. She may run again for something.
Yep.
You know, that's what everybody's saying. When you blatantly lie about something like that, it's an obvious dog whistle to the right. Like, obviously, Pasta just said it. Like, it's just not true. It's not factual. I lose a ton of respect because you're lying. We just proved to you that we do not have open borders. Now, why would you say something like that? Right? Why? The question is why, right? Why? Well, who knows? But to me, it's the act, the lie, in lying to your audience and lying to people who supported you with something so easily disproven is just ridiculous to me. And this is why we're doing the story, because we owe you guys the truth.
Yeah.
Because it's completely false. It's entirely false. We wouldn't have we wouldn't have ICE, we wouldn't have the Department of Homeland Security, we wouldn't have these people on horseback. Now horses are banned, which is cool, but not the way we treat people. Like we wouldn't have this whole situation at the border if we had an open border.
Yeah.
Like, it would be a completely different situation. Nobody here on this show is telling you that we should or shouldn't have open borders. What we are saying is that we do not have open borders right now.
And, I also want to concentrate on the fact that why are we taking our eye off the prize? Why are we getting away from talking about the cause and effect? What's the cause? And that's something that Tulsi was always consistent on. And a lot of people who watched this yesterday, too, when she went on Fox, they were like, this just doesn't seem like Tulsi. And I got to agree. I'm not trying to get all crazy tinfoil hat over here, but she doesn't seem normal when she's talking about it. It just doesn't seem like the normal Tulsi. But let's get rolling into this. Let's break this down, because it starts off with, and you hear Joe Biden is my friend again, which just makes me want to throw something. But how do we leave out that American imperialism is the main reason why Haitians are here?
Which, by the way, I go after Bernie for saying Joe Biden is a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
She's doing the same thing,
Here
guys.
we go.
And this was after her Tucker appearance, right?
Yep, this was yesterday.
Okay. So maybe this guy was like, hey, come on to my show. And
well, they're not going to have her on MSNBC and CNN. You know what I'm saying? The way they treated her was disgusting.
It was.
And you know what I'm saying? I have a hard time believing that this is just a person who's upset and is just lashing back out. I think Tulsi's smarter than that. I think she's stronger than that. I don't know what her motives are right now. And I, once again, to all those Tulsi people watching, believe you me, this is not like my most happiest moment to do this, but we have to do this because we have to be consistent, because we've always been consistent and we've always been honest with you, and we need to break this down. So let's go.
Let's bring in former Hawaii Democratic Congresswoman, former presidential candidate, and Army reservist, Tulsi Gabbard. She's just back from deployment in Africa to go after al-Qaeda affiliate jihadists there. Congresswoman, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Brett.
I want to talk about Afghanistan, foreign policy, and counterterrorism, but I want to start on the issue of immigration that's pressing now in the news. You tweeted out this today. You said the Biden-Harris open door policy has been a disaster. It needs to end now. The main beneficiaries of open borders are the gangs, cartels, and human traffickers. The Trump policy of having people wait on the other side of the border worked and needs to be reinstated. Your thoughts about what's happening in Del Rio and how the administration is handling it?
It is an utter disaster and failure, and it's directly attributed to the Biden-Harris administration's open border policy. This is not only a humanitarian crisis, it is a national security crisis, and it's something I've said all along, which is that if we do not secure our borders, then we can't have a secure nation. There are so many issues that have happened under this administration that have led to this point, and their continued failure of leadership is exacerbating the crisis that we're seeing play out before our very eyes.
But do you think, having been in Congress, that Congress can deal with this issue?
Congress has proven, unfortunately, to put partisan politics ahead of actually passing real necessary immigration policy reform. But what we've seen under the last several months under this administration, unfortunately, and Joe Biden is a friend, I hold no malice towards him, but I have to say that the policies and decisions that have been made via executive order by the White House have led to this open border policy with thousands, tens of thousands of people coming and attempting to, and sometimes successfully streaming across the border.
And you think that's a national security threat as well?
It absolutely is. How can you say that it's not when we have no idea who is coming across the border? And once again, how can we ensure safety and security for the American people when we don't have a secure border?
All right.
Fam, I'll let you get the first crack at this right now because I obviously, you know what I'm saying. All I have to say is that the Tulsi I know would have said, all right, but first we got to talk about why they're coming here. Like, it's just void. It's not even talked about now. That was like your whole campaign. That was your whole policy. U.S. imperialism as the biggest problem leading to all this shit. Now that's just out the window.
How are a bunch of people who don't have a pot to piss on a national security threat is what I want to know. Like, how? First of all, she lied. We just said there's no open border policy. 1. 2, why are Haitians coming in a national security threat? She sounds like Donald Trump when he said, we don't know who's coming in. We got these rapists. Like, why? Guys, like, why? Like, she's literally sounds like a neocon right now. This is disappointing for a lot of people. I mean, this isn't something that we wanted to be doing ever. You think these people are a national security threat? You think Zorro's paid all these people to bring their child through, up through? Because there are people saying that. Why do you think, these people are coming? Zorro's obviously fun. No, dude. Zorro's is a piece of shit that does fund a lot of NGOs. He did not fund these people to go up through Brazil and Colombia, which is one of the most dangerous parts. Okay, when people go up through the border, women get raped. This happens. They have their fucking children. Like, do you think that these people are getting paid by the thousands to come here for that? Are you serious? Now, this is a national security threat. These people that are just trying to get water, are you fucking kidding me?
Holding on the food like it's no tomorrow. Look, you got people coming after them, and they won't drop the food because they're bringing it to their loved ones and their families who's ever survived. That's the majority of this people. We know that. I mean...
And another thing, Pasta, she mentions the drugs and the cartels. Who the fuck led to the creation and the exacerbated disaster of the drug trafficking industry in Central America? Please, and Latin America. Please let me know who.
The CIA.
I mean, the fucking Pedro Castillo's own party was like, yeah, the DEA are the biggest cartel. They are. We want them out. Like, this is a fact.
Yeah.
This is a fact. And then what happened with those drugs? Oh, yeah, they brought them to America. They got a bunch of people addicted to that. And what we have now is the drug issue, right? And that, of course, that is what the CIA has been involved in, the DEA. You can't tell me that these people, these Haitians, are going to smuggle in drugs, and that's why it's a national security threat.
And let me just show you an example of how they answer that question. Fam, ask me which policy is better at the border, Trump or Biden's.
Fam, which policy is better at the border, Trump or Biden?
I don't care. It really is irrelevant. What is important is the fact that we're destabilizing Haiti so corporations can go in there and extract all these resources while the people suffer, and now they have to come here. Why don't we start with stopping that?
It's the same policy too, by the way. They haven't changed a thing. It's the Trump era policy.
The 42, right?
Yeah.
Whatever.
You can fucking find it. It's the same exact policy. Nothing's been changed. And in fact, it's been exacerbated. They're deporting more people. Like, this is, not only is she lying, she's misrepresenting things and catering to a certain audience. And it's really uncomfortable to watch.
And just for the record, we have reached out very nicely, kindly.
So have
said,
other
please,
people.
Yeah, so, you know what I'm saying? Would you like to come on and explain your point of view and clarify some of the statements? I have some questions. We have a lot more questions now than we ever did. Tulsi always gave us access to her, and when she did any rally, she would always have a press gaggle at the end.
That's what we liked about her.
That was the most amazing thing about her. She faced the music. She went, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now she's not doing that anymore. Now she can be more of a controlled kind of environment, and she gets to go on, and she's going on a network that will not push back the way we're pushing back about this very, very subject, which we thought she championed more than anybody.
Right.
Now let's get on to the bigger issue that needs to be addressed. Once again, Tulsi used to lead with, let's stop the extremism by stop participating in this endless regime change wars. Now the language has changed to, we need to take them out.
Yeah,
this was like this. Watch this next part, fam. This part really pissed me off.
The counterterrorism fight, the president talking about how it's evolving, how it's going to change. Take a listen.
We'll meet terrorist threats that arise today and in the future with a full range of tools available to us. We're better equipped to detect and prevent terrorist threats, and we are more resilient in our ability to repel them and to respond.
There are a lot of people, Congresswoman, who say what happened in Afghanistan and what is happening now and how we handled it has really opened the door for more terrorists. You've just come back from Africa, which is also a hotbed of radical jihadists. Your thoughts on where we are?
Well, as you know, Brett, in both East and West Africa, there is a surge of these jihadist terrorists. Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and affiliated groups are increasing in their strength. The withdrawal from Afghanistan is something that I agreed with, but unfortunately, the way that this administration executed that withdrawal has been an utter and abject disaster, which is continuing to play out as we speak. For those who say, and we should continue to monitor Afghanistan to make sure that there are no Al-Qaeda and ISIS strongholds that are allowed to start to take root. If we're seeing that that's starting to happen, then we need to go and take them out. But we should not be under the illusion that this is a problem that's only limited to Afghanistan. And the proof of that is that Al-Qaeda, for a very long time, has been able to get refuge and actually have training camps and support in Pakistan, which is a problem that not only hasn't been addressed, but we've seen the United States continue to support Pakistan in spite of this known fact and reality. So this is a bigger issue here that really needs to be addressed.
Fam. We need to take them out, fam. I mean, it seems like just manufacturing consent for endless wars rather than stopping regime change wars.
Look,
maybe I'm wrong.
I will give her one thing. Yeah, it was a mess the way things were done in Afghanistan. Absolutely. But again, that's not the prime focus here. The prime focus is even when she talks about Pakistan, like, and she had mentioned Iran earlier, like she didn't mention, she equated Iran with Saudi Arabia. Like this is she is manufacturing consent for not just Afghanistan, but now everywhere. Oh, we need to go after these people now. We need to take them out. We need to stop involving ourselves, period.
Yeah.
That's what got us into this mess in the first place. Remember what Cynthia McKinney said. We cannot expect those that got us into this mess to fucking fix it. She is literally advocating we do what we did already.
Yeah.
And like, that is not an anti-war message. That is not an anti-imperialist message. That is not even remotely a non-interventionist message. That is a very pro-manufacturing consent message. And drone warfare is, of course, this administration's tool. Like, that's what they're going to use. They're going to use a less boots on the ground, but more drone warfare. And that causes more civilian casualties. That we pointed this out multiple times. So just this very hawkish language of saying we got to take these people out is extremely, imagine if a Republican said it, just like anybody, Hillary Clinton, you could put any of these people, they all agree on this type of rhetoric, on this type of foreign policy. That is what she ran. She ran against interventionism, and here she is advocating it.
Yeah, and you hit it on the nose. And I want to also reiterate that in her first couple statements, she said the number one issue we have is the extremist, the Islamist ideology, right? And that's just a further thing from the truth. It's always been our involvement, our fueling of these situations. We've had many guests on, Mark Sloboda, Max Blumenthal, talked about how America funds these factions out there. That is the biggest problem, and that's where she was. Even though she did mention that the fact that we still aid Pakistan, you know what I'm saying, it was just so small. You know what I'm saying? That should be the main issue. Why are we funding these people? Why are we there? Even Rumsfeld said, and I keep repeating this, that he said, maybe we're creating more terrorists than we're killing. Duh. And that's what I thought Tulsi was all about, but this seems to be like a 180 to me. Pam, here's a good question. Why are you still a fucking Democrat? Here you go.
Are you still a Democrat?
Yes.
And will continue to be, despite the criticism on a number of fronts?
Well, look, I've never been about party politics, Brett. I think you know that about me. I'm about putting country first. And the problems that we're seeing on a whole host of policy fronts is those in positions of power and leadership putting partisan politics, their own selfish desire for power, ahead of the interests of the country, ahead of the interests of the people. And that's what I always try to do my very best in looking at different policies, is we have to put the people and the interests of our country first.
So it's like she's remaining a Democrat, but she's dog whistling to Republicans. So it's almost like she's trying to infiltrate the Democrats. But listen, guys, at the end of the day, the neocons and the neoliberals both want war. They agree when it comes to war and cutting anything for the working class. So again, it's very weird. She hesitated too. Did you notice?
Yeah. No, and these facial expressions, sometimes they're like, what the hell is that? Like, you know what I'm saying? Let's play the last 2 minutes really quick, because this is kind of gets into that whole theme we've been talking about. What is the big issue here? What is the number one cause of problem? Isn't it imperialism? Well, at one point, we'll just watch this right now, what she says about this. This is the last 2 minutes.
Well, I want to ask you about this. We're just getting the tip of the iceberg about this John Durham investigation, and there's been an indictment of a Hillary Clinton attorney, Mr. Sussman, about basically infusing this Russia narrative with the help of various media outlets and others. And it may go other places. We don't know. We're following it. But you have a unique perspective in that Hillary Clinton once called you a Russian asset. Just to remind people, take a listen.
They're also going to do third party again. And I'm not making any predictions, but I think they've got their eye on somebody who's currently in the Democratic primary and are grooming her to be the third party candidate. She's a favorite of the Russians. Yeah, she's a Russian asset. I mean, totally. And so they know they can't win without a third party candidate.
They went on to confirm that that was you that she was referring to. Your thoughts as we're starting to get this Durham investigation and what that means?
Confirms what I've known to be true, which is that you have the power elite, people like Hillary Clinton, those around her, working with the media, the deep state, in order to bring down the destruction and downfall of anyone that they deem to be a threat to their power. Outsiders, people like me, people like Donald Trump, doesn't matter, Democrat or Republican, if they identify, hey, this is someone who's not going to toe the line, this is someone who's not going to follow kind of the establishment way of things that are accepted, they pose a threat, and they will do all they can to silence or censor or cancel what they view to be a threat. And so this is bigger than about me or Trump or anyone else. This is actually a threat to our country and our democracy democracy, and the arrogance that these people have in thinking they have the right to manipulate the American people, what they view, what they hear, what they see, all to preserve their own selfish interests, not caring at all about the impact on the country, the impact of the American people, or who gets hurt along the way.
It's always interesting to hear your point of view. Welcome back.
Fam. All right, fam. First off, I just want to say that I didn't go into the whole Sussman story that a lot of people are like, why are you covering this and what she's talking about right here? Because it's a fucking joke.
Yeah.
Because the whole system is rotten to the core. The FBI was involved with what happened when it came to Russiagate. It could have took a 6-year-old to figure out that all this shit was fucking untrue. And Kevin Kleinsmith, who fucking forged an email, changed an email to further the investigation to the FISA courts, got probation. He got nothing. So what do you think Sussman's going to get? Okay, they were involved. The media was involved. The whole system needs to be blown the fuck up, right? Because they all propagated this lie and they carried it on from the get-go. When Sussman was there, he was like, I'm just a concerned citizen. Well, it's funny, when I look at your fucking payroll over here and I look at your books, I see that you do business with the Clinton campaign. Hello? I'm not going to cover that bullshit anymore, because what's going to happen is you're going to get nothing. It's going to be a slap on the wrist, and it's just all theater. So if you want to fucking cover the bullshit, you think it's the bombshell, just like that Australian guy told us at the fucking park, and I kind of laughed. I tried not to laugh as hard because it's a fucking joke, okay? But now all of a sudden, this is the outsider. Trump's now an outsider.
Trump is an outsider.
It's an outsider.
The Trump that Operation Warp Speed, the Trump that didn't pardon Julian Assange, the Trump that literally told his supporters to take the boop boop. Are you serious? That Trump, the Trump that literally didn't do anything for vets, didn't do anything for the working class and the people he he's not an outsider, Tulsi. And people thought you were an outsider, right? When you were challenging the imperialism, the status quo. And she does talk about how these people are, they mentioned the Hillary Clinton, Queen of Warmongers quote, and how Hillary Clinton attacked her. So she does talk about how, these people do have their interests and they do want to stop what people listen to, what people hear. And all of that is true. But what's also true is that there's this cultural war happening between the left and the right, and she seems to now be a part of that. The culture war grift that is like, well, censorship only applies to the ideology I adhere to. Protesting is bad if it's the issue that I care about. That's what it seems like here. She's playing team sports, and if you're gonna say that you're an outsider, you don't play team sports. Yep. You challenge the system at its core, regardless of where you might be ideologically. Because if Tulsi had conservative stances, which I've always thought she's had some, and she was still fairly critical of the system as a whole, I wouldn't have a problem. But it seems like she's still pandering, and she's trying to make Trump and a bunch of people who are still pushing the status quo something that they're not. They're not outsiders. They're part of the whole thing. We wouldn't have what we have today with Joe Biden if Donald Trump hadn't been president. Donald Trump was the key to pushing all of these attacks on our civil liberties, all of the censorship. Without Donald Trump, maybe we would have people fighting for election integrity on the left. But now, any sort of questioning of the mandates, any sort of questioning of the boop boop, any sort of questioning of elections, that's a right-wing talking point. And that is because of Donald Trump. And Donald Trump was a whole part of this whole fucking shindig from the fucking start.
Just listen to Tulsi right here. Whatnot. Here we go.
This is how she used to be.
This is the betrayal. This is the betrayal to the American people, to me, to my fellow service members. We were all lied to, told that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, was working with al-Qaeda, and that this posed a threat to the American people. So I enlisted after 9/11 to protect our country, to go after those who attacked us on that fateful day, who took the lives of thousands of Americans. The problem is that this current president is continuing to betray us. We were supposed to be going after al-Qaeda, but over years now, not only have we not gone after al-Qaeda, who is stronger today than they were in 9/11, our president is supporting al-Qaeda.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
There you go.
What
did she just say? Did she not just say that our president, the commander-in-chief, the head of the military,
Donald Trump at that
is
point,
supporting al-Qaeda? Isn't that the big fucking problem? It's the same thing. Our government, who's ever in charge, whatever president, you can just reel them in, reel them out, replace them, are supporting these fucking groups, is supporting Al-Qaeda. Now you're saying the thing that our government is supporting, that itself is the big problem? That's what they would say as they were backdoor funding them.
Yep.
You completely are contradicting yourself. I'm sorry, fam.
No.
And they cut her off there, too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah.
Because she's calling them out, and now all of a sudden,
Exactly.
now she's joining the fucking theater.
And by the way, she endorsed Joe Biden because she said Donald Trump was the enemy that we needed to defeat Donald Trump, that he was so bad. So all of a sudden, this shift to saying Trump is an outsider, and she's like giving Trump, so much love, and it's like, but you didn't like him. You voted for Joe Biden because you were afraid of the danger of Donald Trump. Now all of a sudden he's the good guy. It just feels so disingenuous. It's just you can spot it from a mile away. It's just not right.
I mean, this is a complete 180 right
Yeah.
here. This is a complete 180. She's therefore saying the president is supporting Al-Qaeda. She's talking about the government supporting terrorists.
But now she's saying she wants him back.
That he's the outsider, and now the problem isn't the government supporting them. Now the problem is the terrorists themselves.
Right. Not the government funding.
Okay. See, can you not understand why we're so upset?
Right.
Can you not understand why we're so fucking disappointed and angry? Okay? It's just a complete 180. That's all.
And the last part is, do we really have open borders?
Yeah.
We've answered that. If you want to read
Black in the Empire. The Biden administration deported more people from
Yep.
Haiti in its first few weeks in office than Trump did in all of 2020. And that was with the whole talk about the whips and the horses, whatnot. I love Unapologetic. I love Black in the Empire. If you guys haven't checked out their Twitters, they're going to have YouTube shows. Unapologetic already has a YouTube show. But Dontel and Daryl, they're fucking awesome. I love sharing their stuff, and that's the point. Like, we don't have open borders.
So, by the way, they're going to be banning horses.
Yeah.
So, giant step forward. I'm glad horses aren't. Yeah, let's hear.
So what he has asked all of us to convey clearly to people who are understandably have questions, are passionate, are concerned, as we are about the images that we have seen, is one, we feel those images are horrible and horrific. There is an investigation the president certainly supports, overseen by the Department of Homeland Security, which he has conveyed will happen quickly. I can also convey to you that the secretary also conveyed to civil rights leaders earlier this morning that we would no longer be using horses in Del Rio. So that is a policy change that has been made in response. But separately, all related, it's also important for people to understand what our process and our immigration process is and what the steps are that are taken.
Which I love what Black in the Empire put. He's like, who gives a fuck? They're deporting more Haitians now than Trump did in his 4 years of office. They're putting these people who made this fucking grueling trip to escape their country that's in ruins right now because of American imperialism, and we're putting them on a plane to send them back to their deathbeds.
Yep.
That is the fucking issue. That is something. We don't have open borders. Stop with this fucking dog whistling bullshit. That's all it is. We got to protect Americans. No, you want to protect Americans? Stop sending fucking troops across seas for the benefit of corporations. For the benefit of individuals to make billions and trillions of dollars, stealing resources from all these countries, turning them into chaos for it to come home. The chickens is coming home to roost.
And domestically, you want to protect Americans? Don't cut off unemployment on Labor Day.
The
eviction moratorium, rent cancellation. You could have helped Americans by giving Medicare for all. They're not doing any of this shit. Okay? So, you know what? Like, I'm just done with this.
Yeah.
Like, this is just bad.
That's it. That's that section. By the way, Johnny, you got anything else on this section? Because it just, it's disappointing. Yeah. It really is disappointing. And that's why we're just calling it out for what it is. Faja, Rob, Takayo, thank you so much for the Super Rate contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch. We have 75 people watching on Rokfin, but we only have 36 thumbs up. Please hit the thumbs up button
and
for us.
And share, guys, because this part you're going to love, because I go pretty deep into this next section.
Yeah.
More than the surface level stuff about her crying. But we need to understand what this bill was and why it's so bad, and what really led to this moment, and why it's important to really understand what's going on here, how this whole process happens, right? So first, I'm going to start with CNN.com, right? This is from CNN.com, and I just got this little snippet here. So House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer created a separate bill to bring to the floor Thursday under suspension, which means this bill bypassed the normal rules required to pass the bill and required 2/3 majority to pass. The final vote, right, for the Iron Dome bill was 420 to 9, with 2 present. 8 Democrats and 1 Republican voted against the bill. The Iron Dome aerial defense system is designed to intercept rockets mid-air by targeting them and firing interceptor missiles to destroy them before they can kill civilians living in Israel. It was initially developed by Israel's defense technology company Rafael, but the system has since been heavily sponsored by the United States. Okay, so that's the gist of what happened, because what happened was they created a separate bill because progressives said, no, we don't want this included in the spending bill. So they created a separate bill. I just want you to know they somehow, the parliamentarian doesn't matter. They created a separate bill to make sure that Israel got the funding it needed.
Yeah. By the way, I like the fact that we've already provided $1.6 billion for these dome batteries already since 2020 November last year.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. That's my whole point. Where they created another bill.
Didn't give them enough.
But anytime you ask money for the working class, they give you excuses, right? So this is why you should be angry. So from Fox, 9 House members, including 8 Democrats, voted for the funding for the Israel Dome missile defense system. Voted against funding for the Israel Iron Dome missile defense system. Okay, so we talked about 420 to 9, and I just wanted to point out who the no votes were. Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, Cori Bush, Andre Carson, Marie Newman, Raul Grijalva, Chuy Garcia, and Thomas Massie, the only Republican to vote no. Okay, and now I want to go over the bill itself a little bit. I'm just going to point out certain things. By the way, before I go into that, I just want to note that means that Katie Porter voted yes. Mm-hmm. That means that Jamal Bowman voted yes. Mm-hmm. Mondaire Jones, yes. All these progressive squad members, Mark Pocan,
Adam Schiff,
all these people, they all vote. Okay, so now it's going to go to the Senate, where obviously it's going to likely pass because the Senate is even worse than the House. Now, the Appropriations House website, right? This is the Iron Dome supplemental. It was introduced, and this is a press release from September 22nd. And it was introduced by Chair Rosa DeLauro, Democrat from Connecticut. And the legislation provides $1 billion to replace missile interceptors that were used to protect Israeli civilians from Hamas rockets during heavy fighting in May. The funding is consistent with the 2016 Memorandum of Understanding between the United States and Israel, which commits the United States to providing additional assistance to replenish the Iron Dome after periods of fighting to allow Israel to continue to defend itself from attack. Quote, the United States' commitment to the security of our friend and ally Israel is ironclad. Replenishing interceptors used to protect Israel from attacks is our legal and moral responsibility. While this funding would ordinarily be included in a year-end spending package, we are advancing this legislation now to demonstrate Congress's bipartisan commitment to Israel's security as part of the Middle East with lasting peace, because Israel is bringing peace to the Middle East. And so are we, right? This is an extension of the $500 million in annual funding for Israeli cooperative programs, by the way, which was included in the Extending Government Funding and Delivering Emergency Assistance Act that passed the House on September 21st with the support of all House Democrats. So this is called HR 5323, and if you click on it, it'll take you to the bill, the actual bill, which I haven't seen anybody actually cover this bill.
Hey, fam.
But I'm not really going to go. There's a couple things I wanted to point out on it. And you guys can see there it is. It talks about the supplemental appropriations ending in September 30, 2022, which means this is this has happened before, right? Mm-hmm. It says, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America and Congress assembled that the following sums are appropriated, blah, blah, blah. It talks about the Department of Defense procurement, and it talks about the $1 billion to remain available until September 2024. It goes on and on. Eventually, it gets to the point of where it mentions the specifically under the procurement defense wide, right? And it says right here, for an additional amount for procurement, and it's in the picture of the folder. For an additional amount for procurement defense-wide, $1 billion to remain available until September 30th, 2024 for the Secretary of Defense to provide to the government of Israel for the procurement of the Iron Dome defense system to counter short-range rocket threats, provided that such funds shall be provided to address emergent requirements in support of the Operation Guardian of the Walls. Okay, so a lot of people were saying this is a defensive act. It's just Israel defending itself. What is Operation Guardian of the Walls? Okay, so let's go to Operation Guardian of the Walls. And this is from the IDF website, who's going to be pretty honest about what it is, because they really don't like Palestinians, right? So Operation Guardian of the Walls. Okay, the beginning of Operation Guardian of the Walls was marked by barrages of rockets fired toward Jerusalem, the capital of Israel, by terror organizations in the Gaza Strip on May 10th, 2021 at 6:03 p.m. Over the course of the next 12 days, Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the PIJ, two terror organizations within the Gaza Strip, fired almost 4,400 rockets at Israel. Approximately 680 of these rockets misfired and fell within the Gaza Strip, causing Palestinian casualties. You see that? The rockets caused Palestinian casualties, not the Israeli forces. Okay, so these rockets were fired indiscriminately at Israeli civilians. Israel made great efforts to protect the civilians via a combination of bombs, shelters, and the deployment of the Iron Dome aerial defense system, which successfully intercepted 90% of the rockets fired at its civilians. Again, Palestine is an open-air prison. They don't have these rockets. In response to Hamas attacks on Israeli civilians, the IDF struck over 1,500 terror targets, including launch sites, command and control centers, and weapons storage sites, including civilians. Among these targets, the IDF struck many kilometers of Hamas's extensive tunnel system, meaning schools and hospitals. This tunnel network enabled military training, mobility, storage of weaponry, the capacity to carry out and manage military operations without exposing terror organization operatives. The IDF also neutralized hundreds of Hamas and Islamic Jihad terror operatives. Overall, we succeeded in our mission to defend Israel, fight terror, and ensure the security of Israeli civilians. They talk about what Hamas is and the Islamic Jihad and all of that. And then they said during the course of Operation Guardian of the Walls, Hamas directed attacks at civilians with rockets, drones, anti-attack missiles, and more. Throughout the operation, IDF soldier staff Sergeant Omar Talib of the National Brigade was killed by an anti-tank missile fired by the PIJ while defending Israel's border. And so in order to protect Israeli civilians from this ongoing wave of terrorism, the IDF combined pinpoint intelligence with sophisticated military capabilities to cripple Hamas's military infrastructure. And this was difficult due to Hamas's strategy of conducting deep within civilian neighborhoods and structures in the Gaza Strip. So they're like okaying their bullshit.
It's saying that it was tough because there was among civilians, but didn't stop them.
Yeah,
it was tough, but
yeah, exactly.
Collateral damage, fam. Couple babies.
So at the very end, the purpose of the Operation Guardian of the Walls was to restore the security and ensure the safety of Israel and its civilians. By combining military defense capabilities with proactive military strikes, the IDF was able to destroy a large amount of Hamas's weapons and manufacturing capabilities, which they claim were under schools and hospitals. That's what they claim. So that's what they bombed. In order to bring an enduring calm to the people of Israel, the IDF will continue to defend the state of Israel against any and all threats. Israel's an apartheid state. It's an illegal occupation. Palestine is an open-air prison. These people are living in dismal conditions. The United States is funding this. The United States is fucking funding this overwhelmingly. They overwhelmingly passed this legislation.
Fam, your point was that it was supposedly this is for defense, but right here it says that it's proactive military strikes.
Exactly.
That's offensive, yeah.
Yeah, well,
exactly.
That's how they send it. The Iron Dome. It's protection. It's playing defense from the aggressors of Hamas and stuff like that. And I just want to say right off the bat, like, guys, I'm sick and tired of this argument still going on in the public as it's supposed to be like it's about religion and whatnot and using being anti-Semitic and everything like that. It's nothing to do with this. This is a geopolitical nation state. A lot of people feel that's illegitimate, that are using our weapons of mass destruction to kill women and children all the time in an open air prison. And I want to reiterate that what Fam said. It's an open air prison. They're not allowed to leave, not by land, not by sea.
They control
have to
the
stay
water.
there. They have
control the
terrible water. They're being starved out.
They
and yet
control the energy. They
nothing.
don't have electricity, really.
The people that are left are mostly young teenage men, right? Women and children. That's it. Because they've basically killed off all the men in battle. Yeah. And when they talk about these rockets that Hamas and the PIJ launch, those are defense against what Israel's doing. Israel's constantly bombing them, so they put out rockets. We're not funding Palestinians with an Iron Dome for them. They don't have the military capabilities and the technology to fight. So what they do is they send rockets, and they target these rockets specifically to Israeli military. They don't target civilians. Where on the other hand, you have the targeting of civilians, of schools, of hospitals. I've had people on this show to talk about that. People who are in West Asia, people who understand the geopolitics of what's happening. This is there is undeniable what's happening right in Palestine.
Yeah. And what about the whole argument too as well? Like, separate the argument. Okay, let's say whatever's happening over there is happening over there. Why are we funding this?
Exactly.
We have people starving on the streets here. I put up a tweet the other day and I said, why the hell are we keep on supporting country after country after country like Israel and stuff when we haven't even given reparations to our American descendants of slave here? And we have more and more people of color ending up on the streets starving, and we're sending billions of dollars across seas. Why?
Aren't you mad? I thought it was about America first for a lot of people who are on the right? How is this America first? This is Israel first. They have healthcare.
Yes.
They have a higher standard of living than we do. They have a higher life expectancy.
They have less homeless.
They have less homeless. They have all this technology. Where's some of that for us? If you want to make it about you, where the hell is that for the American population? It's nowhere. Meanwhile, the money is being used to kill people, women and children mainly, in Palestine. And of course, this is all a precursor to what was going on in Congress, because this is why people should be mad at the squad. This is why. Look, the vote, she didn't need to change her fucking vote. It passed overwhelmingly, right? So that goes both ways. That means that I guess if her vote wouldn't have made a difference anyway. But really, what the crux of this is, if she's already doing this in a vote that in this case didn't matter, in the case of the police funding, it did, then what's going to happen if AOC runs for office again, because she will, and she has more power? How's her voting going to be if it's already been this dismal, right? She doesn't have the integrity to really say no on this, and then she cries about it. So we're going to go over that. But I just thank you for bringing that up. Is that from
Gaza?
Right. Yeah, Gaza Fights for Freedom. Okay. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, what about AOC here?
Okay. So.
Because this thing was very confusing. Because look at the vote was overwhelming. Why did she have to change her vote anyways?
Exactly. So
it was just so weird.
So RT did this overwriting, coverage, crocodile tears. AOC breaks down after crying. Crying after withdrawing no vote on funding Israel missile defense at last minute. And so after changing her vote from no to a non-committal present at the last moment, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was seen crying as the House passed funding for Israel's Dome missile defense system, $1 billion. We've talked about that. So I just wanted to point out, and I have the video on the next tweet, I believe. Yeah, okay, so we're going to go through this video, and if you can zoom in, that would be great, Johnny. So this is from Nicole Alexander Fisher that put up this video, which made it really easy.
Great work, Nicole.
Very easy for people to access.
Go follow her Twitter.
So this was on the vote for the Iron Dome funding. Rep. Ocasio-Cortez voted no. But then there was a minute-long interaction between her and Speaker Pelosi where Rep. Ocasio-Cortez seemed visibly distraught, which preceded her vote switch to present. So let's go ahead and watch it. It's going to be at the corner of left at the bottom. You're going to see it. If you can. Yeah, that's Pelosi in pink. I forget who this woman in the blue is. But then AOC, you can't see her off camera. Then she kind of comes in camera. So. Yeah. No, there's no sound, so we can talk over it. So just let it play. You can see them. You see them right there. There's Pelosi.
Yeah.
At this point, they had said that she had said she was voting no, along with several other members of the squad. The OG squad, right? They all voted no, except her. And you'll see Pelosi's arms flail in a minute. There they are. Discussion. This has happened before, by the way, and I'll point that out in a minute.
Oh, she's waving now.
There she's waving. And when she well, she'll raise her hand in a minute, but not yet. So, Cori Bush. Discussing. And it's towards the end where this starts to. People are watching. There she is. See? It's like Pelosi saying, you can't do that. You're not allowed. All right. So the second video beneath it is where you start seeing more.
No,
No,
like
no, no,
in the
no,
thread.
in the
There's
thread.
another one right below it.
Yeah.
Interaction continued, it says. Yeah, it is. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, you can see the crying here and the hand over the face, I think.
Yeah, she's slightly off camera, so you can't. Mostly off camera. And
No, she's right there now.
there.
She's doing one of these.
Yeah. Pelosi's like, nope. So I just want to point this out. If it's not about the votes, really,
What is it about?
then it's about something she's been promised. Right? And I'm going to get into that. Likely. All right.
There she goes, changing her vote.
Yep. She's raising her hand and is going to change her vote now. Because they're asking, do you have any last minute? There she is, last minute changes. So she raises her hand. And is going to change her vote. So that's essentially the interaction that happened, right? So, yeah. So you can see the numbers, not even close, right? So why the hell would you do that? So, yeah.
On this vote, the yeas are 420, the nays are 9, with 2 recorded as present, 2/3 being in the affirmative. The rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
So it's passed.
And $1 billion of our dollars, just like that, in addition to the every year funding of Israel for their defense system to kill Palestinians when they're just protecting themselves, goes along throughout the night while we suffer here at home without education, without health care, without any fucking housing whatsoever. But yeah, sure, we need to do it because they're their only ally in that region,
Hold
right?
on. Yeah, Johnny, I wanted to read that according to Rep. Dingle part of the tweet. According to Rep. Dingle, who is likely the woman in blue, but I can't see her face. I believe that is her. She and Rep. Ocasio-Cortez were both upset because the Iron Dome funding was not brought through committee. She also cites the large Jewish community in AOC's district. So this is what she said. Democratic Rep. Debbie Dingell of Michigan, who was with Ocasio-Cortez, said that she and Ms. Ocasio-Cortez were upset because of the way the Iron Dome's funding was brought to the House floor, saying how it never went through committee. It's very upsetting to people like she and I when it's not in the regular order. There were a lot of different opinions. Ms. Dingell, who voted yes on the legislation, noting how Ms. Ocasio-Cortez has a significant Jewish community in her district. The way that it was handled, and several of us made it well known to leadership, it should have never been brought up that way, and it should never been out of regular order. Like I said in the beginning of the show, of this segment, they created a separate bill because the progressives didn't want it included in the spending bill.
And Pelosi, being the Speaker of the House, brought it to the floor.
Steny Hoyer. Yeah.
Well, Steny Hoyer did, and then what happened is
Steny Hoyer requests it, and then Pelosi's
and then Pelosi put it up for a vote.
But
Yes.
they skipped the proper protocol,
going
as
through
I said in the
committee
beginning, of going through committee. Exactly. So okay, so AOC has a large Jewish district, so she's obviously pandering to this. Now, the next thing I believe I'm gonna
designated by Mr. Lawson of Florida, pursuant to House Resolution 8, I inform the House that Mr. Lawson will vote nay on House Resolution 483 amendments. He votes nay.
Okay, there she is. You guys can see her
I inform the House that
crying and hugging Pramila Jayapal. Pramila Jayapal.
That's somebody else.
Oh.
I think it's Barbara Lee. I'm not sure. Can't tell with the
by the
mask.
way, Barbara Lee and Pramila Jayapal both voted yes on this. Just to let you guys know. She was hugging Pramila Jayapal, though, at some point.
She was hugging every single member of the squad and their little leftiest goons.
Just a reminder, both Pramila Jayapal and AOC were crying. And Pramila Jayapal voted yes on it. So did AOC. So apparently they were upset. I'm sorry, AOC voted present. Pramila Jayapal, Barbara Lee voted yes. Because we showed you all the no votes, and then we show you the two present votes, right? So why are you crying? You literally just voted. Why are you crying? Like, are you being, people were like, well, maybe they were being bullied. I don't care. I don't care. Bullied. This is your fucking job. If you can't handle it, get the hell out. It's that simple. You're voting to fund more death to Palestinians. End of story. That's really what this is about. And I'm going to get into exactly why it's hypocritical of AOC to vote present, because she said that she didn't agree with any sort of present vote ever. She said it multiple fucking times. She went after Tulsi Gabbard
for that one.
Yeah, so we're going to go into that.
Vote.
But I just wanted to point this out as we get into that part of this whole debate, that the votes are funding the Iron Dome. There's been multiple times where the squad has changed their votes after he talked with Mama Bear. Multiple times. We saw it with the police funding bill to give more money to Capitol Police. Freaking AOC and I forget who else. They changed their votes to present as well.
Yeah.
Now, there's been multiple times now where AOC has voted present when she previously said she didn't want to vote present. That present was a cop-out, basically. Yeah. When Tulsi Gabbard did it on an impeachment, she went after her hard. Now, this is what I believe, and I've talked to others about this. Misty, I think. They take turns. Oftentimes voting on some good bills, and oftentimes voting just enough in line with the establishment so they're okay, right? Stop being fooled, right, with some of the performative theatrics that are happening with the squad.
It's professional wrestling. It's sometimes you're going to lose, sometimes you're going to win, sometimes it's going to be a disqualification by the referee, but they understand what's going on. It's a controlled environment, it's a controlled atmosphere, and they understand the results at the end. I mean, it's fucked up.
So I wanted to point this out as well, because a lot of people were giving AOC accolades for it's the public citizen tweet. Oh, sorry. You already played it though. That was the AOC crying video. So more performance. The AOC introduced with Mark Pocan an amendment on behalf of Rep. Mark Pocan to reduce the Pentagon budget by 10%.
Yep.
Okay. So they did this. Mark Pocan just voted yes on the Iron Dome, by the way. He is one of the biggest like sellouts. He's part of the Progressive Caucus. He's anti-BDS, just so you know. So this is her introducing an amendment on behalf of Mark McCann, right, to reduce the budget. Like, let's hear what she has to say.
I rise today to offer Amendment 40 to reduce the Pentagon budget by 10%. During a time when our country is withdrawing from foreign wars, when COVID-19 and its fallout is one of the greatest threats that we face, when record levels of unemployment, housing, and healthcare crises are among us, the United States should be reducing its military spending by at least 10% and prioritize the very needs of our communities here at home. Today, we can cut the defense authorization by 10% without any need to deny our service members or their families any of the support that they need. And in doing so, we can free up to $77 billion to go towards fighting the COVID-19 pandemic and much more. Mr. Speaker, I urge support of this amendment, and I reserve the balance of my time. I rise today to offer Amendment 40.
Okay, so is this a good thing that people should be doing? Absolutely. People should be doing, introducing legislation like this. I've said, AOC hasn't introduced legislation that is anti-war. It's kind of ironic that she introduces legislation around September 22nd, and then a day later, pretty much voted to give more money to Israel, essentially, right? Because the present vote is it is, in this instance in particular, it's absolutely a cop-out, because she didn't need to do that. She changed her vote from no to present.
It looks like it was on the same day, though, because she's wearing like the same thing. I don't know.
I mean, it may have been. Maybe she's wearing the same jacket. I don't know. But it's really weird. This is what I'm saying. Like, on one end, you introduce legislation to stand against, to cut down the Pentagon budget, which is not going to pass, by the way. 10%, it's not going to pass. So we know this is performative. We know at least she's taking I'll give her that. At least she's taking the initiative. But when she has a chance to actually vote on something that's direct funding for the empire, that's her stance. The present stance has become her go-to, right? So I just wanted to point that out, because a lot of people were like, oh, she's doing this, but simultaneously, look what else she's doing. And so why does this matter? Why does this matter? Like, why does it matter why she did what she did? So this is something right there. An article talking from August 22nd, talking about the redistricting of AOC. So, of her district, right? So they say congressional redistricting in New York may force Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's district out of Queens and into Westchester. There it is. Jabal Bauman had a comment on it as well. A possible redistricting scenario for New York, according to Dave Wasserman at the Cook Political Report, with New York 14 AOC moving into North Westchester. That's where she lived for the longest time, which is weird. So Jamal Bauman's reaction after taking a look at the possible redistricting, which would have him move him into Rockland and Orange counties and out of the Bronx. So it's kind of interesting that this is happening now, and now in the context of she's protecting her career, like she doesn't want to upset the Jewish
She's signaling to
population.
Future voters.
Exactly. That's what she's doing.
She's
now
signaling to future voters.
Now, I get it, right? Like, I get it that your district, a lot of people have said, for example, Debbie Wasserman Schultz's district, there's a huge Jewish population. There are certain things you can't get away with. You know what? I'm done with that, because if that's going to mean that you push imperialist policy, then you're going to make caveats. You're going to make exceptions at every other turn for something else. So this isn't about AOC's career, right? This isn't about AOC's career. Let's point that out. This is about the fact that these people hold the power to make laws, to legislate, right? She said it herself. You come here to legislate. You come here to take, to make laws. Well, if you're just going to stand by and wash your hands like Pontius Pilate as this is happening, and not take a stand, what's the difference between you and the dude you replaced? What's the difference? I don't care about your career aspirations. I really don't. We shouldn't give two shits about her career aspirations, because if she's going to vote in line with the establishment at the end of the day in matters of war, which is like the number one, like our imperialism is literally like the number one issue, then I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't care about her career aspirations if she gets reelected or what. At least she's fighting against the establishment. Why do you think people like Cynthia McKinney are no longer in Congress? Like, this is no longer about that. I don't know if you have anything to say regarding that.
No.
And I just wanted to point out Emma Vigilant's tweet, because this is exactly what I'm talking about here. We can note that it's probably why she voted present, but it doesn't fucking matter. I don't give a shit about her career aspirations, right? This is the whole fucking neoliberal bullshit. We may never know the full extent of the deal making behind AOC's present vote on the Iron Dome. But it's notable that Bauman also voted yes, while someone like Presley, who I'd say is less progressive than both of them, voted no. My guess is New York State redistricting and funding. Sure, okay, but again, like, it doesn't matter, because for me, it's like, at the end of the day, if you're making excuses for progressive politicians voting for more imperialist legislation that will lead to the death of innocent civilians because of some sort of worry for their next career move, we have absolutely lost the plot. Because this is not about AOC's fucking career, Bauman's career, or any of that. This is about really standing up for really what we need to be standing up for. This is about the war machine. This is about opposing U.S. imperialism. If you run on these policies of being a leftist socialist fighter against the status quo imperialism, and then you just give in, then you're not who you say you were. And it's as simple as that. I don't give a shit about her district. She needs to fucking do what is right on matters of war. Yeah. Period.
And they're not going to. Let's be honest right now. It's all theater at this point.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that pretty much hits it on the nose. That's why Bauman did vote the way he did, is because he's worried about his new district and the people who's going to vote for him and stuff like that. And I think that's what Nancy was doing. Say, listen, if they go back and look at this vote and they see you voted no on this, this is going to cost you votes. At least move to present. I don't want to.
There's also rumors that she is likely to run for Senate, so this would ruin her chances of doing that. But again, I don't give a shit about that. We need, like, do you think the vast majority? Do you think the vast majority of Americans, if like are going to be so upset that you denied $1 billion to Israel when people are fucking suffering here in America?
Yeah.
Come on,
just easily bring it home. Say, I want to bring that to the streets of the Bronx, right? That's the way you sell it.
And why not fight the redistricting? Why are you changing my district? Why are you changing my district? Why? Like, why do you allow them to control you?
They're going to say it's the census coming in, and that's why they have to redistrict and whatnot. It's the way they redistrict is the question, too, as well.
They obviously do it to keep their interests in line. Like, it's obvious. So Glenn Greenwald went after AOC for many of the things that we're going after her now. I wanted to point out this first video, perhaps the second one, but he said Tulsi, she denounced Tulsi Gabbard's present vote on Trump's impeachment, which we just mentioned. And so let's hear what he had to say, because he pretty much called her out on her hypocrisy.
Attacked Tulsi Gabbard, not just for voting present on impeachment, but voting present at all. Something she said no Congress member should do. Here is what AOC did in condemning Tulsi Gabbard's present vote on impeachment. The headline says, "We are sent here to lead." AOC hammers Tulsi Gabbard for voting present. And the article reads, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez chided House colleague Tulsi Gabbard for refusing to vote in favor or against President Trump's impeachment. She said, quote, "Today was very consequential, and not to take a stand one way or another on a day of such great consequence to this country, I think is quite difficult. We are sent here to lead." And then she added that she doesn't just mean it's wrong to vote present on impeachment. She means it's wrong anytime to vote present. This is what she said. Whenever we have a vote, we should vote yes and we should vote no. Voting present is a very tough position to be in. So my first question for the Democratic Congresswoman from New York is, how can she reconcile her condemnation of a present vote when it came to Tulsi Gabbard's doing that in the context of impeachment, how can she reconcile saying whenever we have a vote, we should vote yes and we should vote no, with what the stunt she pulled today of first voting no, but then making sure that she wasn't a no vote, was only a present vote, so that for future runs in New York for Senate or governor, no one can ever say she voted no to deny Israel additional funding for its military. How can you reconcile what she said here with what she did today? That's my first question.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She's a hypocrite.
We remember when we did cover this, because I was very upset when Tulsi Gabbard was voting yes on impeachment. I thought the anti-regime change war candidate...
She voted present on impeachment.
No, in the beginning. I'm talking about when
Tulsi
they did their
Gabbard,
first little
not
bullshit. Like she was for the going into it, and then when they did their final vote, she voted present, and I was like, thank you very much, Tulsi, for sticking, at least voting present and stuff like that.
Right.
The regime change candidate, the anti-regime change candidate, shouldn't be voting yes on impeachment in Ukraine when it's these people in the chambers who have kind of pushed for a regime change revolutionary war in the Ukraine, which caused so much death and chaos, to then point the finger at Donald Trump and say he should be impeached for a phone call. I was very strong about that. So, I mean, but yes, that's what AOC did. She came out. She was like, you should never do this.
But
this
it was
is wrong.
it was a symbolic bullshit. It was symbolic hyper-partisan bullshit. The impeachment whole thing.
Yeah.
It was a non-issue. It was a fucking symbolic theater. That's all it was.
Yeah.
This was an actual vote that mattered, like a stance. Like,
This
are
is
you
about
going to
money,
take
right.
an anti-war stance
Yeah.
or are you not?
The impeachment thing was like something to distract the public. 'cause,
Exactly.
Like, it was such bullshit, and like they're putting all this energy and stuff, and then in the background, you know, and the media was focusing on it and everything.
Yeah.
In the background, other bills were being,
Yeah.
if they were even being brought to the floor or even being written.
Yep.
You know, there was a lot of focus on that.
Yeah.
So
And it shifted focus on what Donald Trump did in his phone call, and it got away from what really happened with the Democrats, with people like Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, what they did in the Ukraine and the part they played. And that's the thing that just drove me fucking crazy at that particular vote, though. But
And just the second part I want to play is, again, we covered this, the police vote, the Capitol Police money funding.
Yep.
The squad had agreed to vote no with the GOP. But then they spoke to Nancy Pelosi again and then changed her vote to present. So let's just play a little bit of this. And
one of those was AOC vote no, but voted present again. This is not the first time she did this after condemning Tulsi Gabbard for doing it. And the other time that she did it was highly consequential. Let me show you what happened. So in May of 2021, just a few months ago, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi demanded $2 billion in an increase for the Capitol Police, for more security, on the grounds that what happened on January 6th and the ongoing threat, as she put it, from the Trump movement means we have to give more money to the police. And the vote passed by one vote. Here's an article that I wrote on that day that was about the fact that the squad, all 6 of them, had originally said they were going to vote no, and that at the last minute, 3 of them, including AOC, changed their votes to present. She voted present, neither yes nor no, which is what allowed Pelosi's bill to pass. And the article from CNBC describes what happens. The House passed a $1.9 billion U.S. Capitol security bill Thursday as Congress splinters over how to protect lives and the democratic process after the January 6th insurrection. The Democratic-held chamber approved the measure by the thinnest of margins a day after it passed a bill to set up an independent commission to investigate the attack on the legislature. Opposition from Republican leaders has raised doubts about whether either proposal can get through the evenly split Senate. The House cleared the security funding in a 213 to 212 vote, while 3 representatives voted present. So it passed by one vote, and 3 of them voted present, and one of those was AOC.
AOC. Exactly.
Yeah.
So there you go. She's a hypocrite. She's been
Yeah.
This isn't the first time.
And I want to point out, fam, too, as well. This is like, once again, it's not like a symbolic vote, whatnot, because we also knew that if it got through the House for impeachment, it was dead on arrival in the Senate. Wasn't going to work.
Right.
They already knew that. They were doing it with symbolic, whatnot. But this particular bill, when it comes to the $1.9 billion when it comes to the Capitol Police, it's not for like saying you can't even kind of like maneuver this in a positive way and say, oh, it's for police departments to get more money for screening, for psychological screening, so they don't hire a racist, or more money for actual training, police won't have to pull to their gun, they can use their words and stuff. No, it was about Capitol Police, and a lot of the money that was in that Capitol Police bill was to protect themselves, to give them private security for themselves.
Increase salaries, yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
For them fucking selves. And in this particular situation, her present vote along with her cohorts allowed this bill to go through.
Exactly.
So it was much more detrimental.
It was extremely detrimental, and again, it was hypocritical because she had just been done arguing against police brutality in 2020 during the George Floyd protests, saying we need to decrease the police funding. She was, talking about Black Lives Matter and defunding the police at every turn in New York. She was happy that they reduced the police budget by, I think it was $1 billion in New York at that time. And she said it didn't go far enough, though. She said it didn't go far enough. And she spoke about how this, we need to do more than this. Then she went and voted for more police funding for herself, because that's what these people are. They see themselves as above you. They're supposed to be public servants. They're supposed to serve you, but they see the writing on the wall. They see that people are upset. They want to protect themselves from anybody that's going to oppose them or protest them. So it's the rules for thee and not for me. Yet once again coming into play. That is the problem with people like AOC and people like the Squad. They're not fucking consistent. They play team sports, they play party politics, and they will take care of themselves before they actually do what is the right thing to do. And I just wanted to end with this meme. Vote present for Iron Dome, because look, we I wasn't criticizing her dress because I just wanted to hate on AOC, but it's because of more of that symbolic bullshit. Right? It's more of the symbolic bullshit. Tax the rich, but I'm going to continue to do absolutely nothing for the working class, to push incrementalism, things that I didn't actually ran against. I mean, things that, like Medicare for all, minimum wage, all this bullshit. She hasn't done shit to push that. So again, it's not about the fucking dress. It's about the symbolic theatrics that AOC pushes. It's about the fact that she's an actress. She's an Instagram influencer. She is not acting as a congresswoman, as a public servant. And she's not the only one. The whole fucking progressive caucus is a fucking joke. They don't do anything progressive. They don't stand for anything. They haven't done shit. And if they banded together, they very damn well could. They're bigger than the fucking Tea Party was. But they refuse because they're somehow bullied by fucking 80-year-old Nancy Pelosi. Are you kidding me? Like, come on. Oh, but she's bullied. I don't give a shit. If you don't have the cojones to go in there and be brave and do what needs to be done, get out. Get the fuck out. That's it. End of story.
Theater, ladies and gentlemen. Theater. Johnny, what else you got?
But she's our ally.
she aligns more with our ideology, so why are we going to piss on her?
We shouldn't be hating on our allies.
Exactly. I mean, Mitch McConnell and
Please
Lindsey
show me
Graham.
how she's been an ally, and then we can talk. Just show me how she's been an ally.
Johnny?
No, that's the next section.
Okay. There is another section. I'm sorry, my bad. Anna Mares, thank you so much. It's a happy Friday, fams. Love you too, Anna. Phil, the Convo Couch received a tip. Thank you for the super rate contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch.
That was
Did Uncle Warren get that in there? How upset I get you. Oh, look at this one by Merritt Holloway. Thank you so much, Merritt. Hey, Convo Couch. I wish I had more. At first, I was skeptical of you guys when you first came on the scene, but I've come to respect you guys through time. I want to let you know that every day you become more relevant. I'm not saying that right, but history will shine on you. Bright. Keep the real truth coming from Bakersfield, California. Thank you so much, Merritt Holloway. Somebody told me yesterday. They were looking, they said, us and Richard Medhurst are the most shadow banned and demonetized and hidden out there. He goes, the friend of mine told me, he goes, they're suppressing you guys because you guys are speaking the most truth right now. So thank you so much for saying that too, because at times like this, when you get a lot of is it lashback or
pushback
or whatever you want,
smeared,
you know what I'm saying?
Like everything.
And speaking of what we're saying right now, because everybody was like, oh, these guys are just a bunch of toll cells and you know what I'm saying, and Bernie bros, and they're really not about the truth. But we're speaking the truth from what we see and what we're analyzing. So it does mean a lot, Meredith, when you come through with these words, right?
Yeah.
These opinions, a lot of people don't deem them as fact. It's all opinions and stuff, but these opinions do mean a lot to us. Thank you so much, Merritt Holloway. And Carrie Black says, the fam is killing it. Much love.
Thank you. And this is a short section. I just had to put something. And this is going to be still because this is just going to be on YouTube still, because I'm literally just going to read straight from the New York Times article, right? Because this is the CDC director, right? She has been contradicting herself, right? In the media. We've talked about this multiple times, right?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh, shit.
All right, I got to read it from the screen up there, but Johnny can make it big for you.
No, Johnny, you read it then, because I forgot my glasses.
Where's my glasses?
My glasses.
CDC chief overrules agency panel and recommends Pfizer BioNTech boosters for workers at risk. In a highly unusual decision, the CDC director, Rochelle Walensky, reversed a move by agency advisors and endorsed additional doses of the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine for healthcare workers, teachers, and other workers at risk. So basically, they endorsed additional doses. So reversed a move. Okay, so let's read more of it.
Yep.
There's Walensky. If you haven't seen her, you probably have. The CDC director.
Yeah, we've.
September 24th. So this was posted today, updated today, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The director for the CDC on Friday overruled a recommendation by an agency advisory panel that had refused to endorse booster shots of the Pfizer BioNTech COVID vaccine for frontline workers. So this Friday, she reversed the ruling of what happened last Friday from that panel. Okay.
Yes. And last Friday, what did they say?
They said that they said no boosters for anybody except 65 and up.
Exactly.
It was a highly unusual move for the director, Dr. Rochelle Walensky, but aligned CDC policy with the FDA's endorsements over her own agency's advisors. The CDC. So the last panel last Friday, was that FDA or CDC? I think that was
FDA.
It was the FDA for the booster shots.
Okay. The CDC's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices on Thursday recommended the boosters for a wide range of Americans. Okay, so no, actually it was CDC, including tens of millions of older adults and younger people at high risk for the disease, but they excluded healthcare workers, teachers, and others whose jobs put them at risk. That put the recommendations at odds with the FDA's authorization of booster shots for all adults with a high occupational risk. This article is not very specific about.
Right. But that's why we're putting it on YouTube. But her whole decision, though, was to actually boost the Biden campaign's demand to give a huge portion of Americans the boosters, right?
Right. That's what it says
and
right here.
They were getting away from listening to science, listening to the panel. That's the whole point.
They were getting ahead of that, of the regulatory process. The White House was getting ahead of that.
The whole thing of the CDC director and of all these people has been like, trust science, believe science, let's follow the science. But when the science said no, hold your horses, she overruled them. So that's a problem now, because again, now the boosters are going to be available and encouraged, not just available, but encouraged in spite of recommendations. So that's what I wanted to point out.
In spite of FDA recommendations and other CDC committees or panels.
Right.
What's this video? Can I watch it?
Yeah. As soon as Friday, by the way, they can begin promoting the
Next
boosters.
Friday.
Where's your tweet, Johnny? Where's your meme? After my 5th booster shot. Where's that at, dude? That's it.
In an effort to protect those at greatest risk, our initial vaccine rollout prioritized these individuals, the everyday heroes of our society. Our healthcare systems are once again at maximum capacity in parts of the country. Our teachers are facing uncertainty as they walk into the classroom, and I must do what I can to preserve the health across our nation. I'm also aware of the disproportionate impact this pandemic has had on racial and ethnic minority communities. Many of our frontline workers, essential workers, and those in congregate settings come from communities that have already been hardest hit. Withholding access for boosters from these people and communities would only worsen the inequities that I have committed to fight against. It was a decision about providing rather than withholding access. I too thought of the stressors of the current moment of this pandemic and the principles of access and equity in my decision. I want to be very clear that I did not overrule an advisory committee. This was I listened to all of the proceedings of the FDA advisory committee and intently listened to this exceptional group of scientists that publicly and very transparently deliberated for hours over some of these very difficult questions and where the science was. This was a scientific close call. In that situation, it was my call to make.
Okay, so she's denying that she overruled, even though she literally did that.
Yeah. And we showed in the last video how this woman contradicts herself all the time, like literally and stuff. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We on the last video I think we had, you know, it was like, oh, it does. We showed her saying it prevents transmission, it prevents sickness and everything, and then it was like, well, what they can't do now is prevent transmission. No, they can never stop transmission of the disease. It's not, you know what I'm saying? And these are old vaccines. All the vaccines were made. The boop boops. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to be talking about this. My bad. Stop me, Johnny.
They're effective for the first variant.
Yeah, but I don't even want to talk about that shit because I can get in trouble.
So,
I forgot we're not even.
Yeah, we
you can't even talk about it. So sorry. Zip.
Yeah,
What
I was just reading
Johnny?
straight from the article.
This is just a meme you were talking about.
Waiting in line for my 59th booster shot to stop the new strain. Rip torn.
So dumb.
Still the meme of the year, brother. Meme of the year.
It wasn't my meme.
Men in
though.
Black,
Somebody
right?
else did. Yeah, it's from Men in Black.
Yeah.
I know, but did you put the words there or no?
No.
Oh, somebody else did it?
Yeah.
Whoever did that, I love you.
Genius.
I love you. I love you.
You're a goon.
So-
So The Hill. So this is kind of talking about the Fourth Industrial Revolution, the Great Reset, what we've been talking about here. So the President of the United States on the costs of Build Back Better agenda. Build Back Better is the Great Reset. We talk about price tags. It is zero price tag on the debt. We are going to pay for everything we spend. I'm tired of trickle down. Trillionaires and billionaires are doing very, very well.
We talk about price tags.
Yeah, so...
It is zero price tag on the debt. We're paying. We're going to pay for everything we spend. So they say it's not, people, understandably, well, it started off at 6 trillion, now it's 3.5 trillion, now is it going to be 2.9? It's going to be zero, because in that plan that I put forward, and I said from the outset, I said, I'm running to change the dynamic of how the economy grows. I'm tired of trickle down. The trillionaires and billionaires are doing very, very well. You all know it, you've all reported it. And in the middle of this crisis, but hardworking people and middle-class people are getting hurt. And so I provide for example, a tax cut. If you have a child, you get a refundable tax credit. It's reduced hunger in America by 40%, literally for children. You have the whole notion of being able to provide for daycare for your children, getting people back to school, et cetera. It's all paid for. It's all paid for. But a lot of these are flat tax cuts that exist within my proposal. And they're being calculated as if the cost of the child care tax credit is a cost to the government. It's not. It's reducing taxes, not increasing taxes. Now, part of the problem is I had hoped, I hadn't planned on, although I kind of anticipated it might happen, I hadn't planned on the 178-mile top winds, hurricanes going to Louisiana and 20 inches of rain in New York and New Jersey and an area as big as the state of New Jersey burning down in the west. And so what I had hoped I would be doing, I'd do what I did in the campaign. I'd be out making the case about what my plan contained.
Okay, so
Champion of the people, fam.
He's talking about the infrastructure bill too and the reconciliation bill. Those are the things that he was talking about. The child care credit, all of that is supposed to be in the reconciliation bill. They're propping this up, Democrats. Like, this is the greatest piece of legislation since the the New Deal. Literally. Like, and progressives are out there touting this legislation. Like, we need to pass it. This is great. Blah blah blah. It's literally milquetoast. It does nothing, no direct payments to Americans. It does nothing to talk about the moratorium, the eviction crisis, the rent crisis. Nothing on raising wages. Nothing on providing for small businesses really more. It does none of that. But they're still somehow hailing as the greatest piece of legislation and build back better. We're gonna build back better. We've seen the conferences at Davos and how they've been talking about this now for years. This is what they mean by build back better. They mean control, mandates, more control over the American population, less ability for people to protest, censorship, and so the people will be at the behest, at complete vulnerability to what the government does, right? So that's where we're headed. That's where we're going. It's not an exaggeration. There's going to be an entire, way to control, to look at your credit score and determine things, to look at your health and determine things. This is not, this is a replacement of workers with machines, which is also happening simultaneously. This is it. Like, this is what they mean by build back better. A lot of people who took the boop wanted to go back to normal. There is no normal. Like, this is change. This is forever going to be changing. Just like after 9/11, we changed the way we went to the airport. This is going to change that. They're building more pipelines. They're going to be controlling your mileage. They're going to be monitoring your spending. That's what they mean by build back better. Privatization of natural resources, exploitation of natural resources in other parts of the country, mainly the global in the world, mainly the global south. Yeah. That's what they mean by build back better.
Yeah. And the system's broken. I'm sick and tired of this whole this Joe Biden is the man of the working class. The guy took more fucking dark money, more money from Wall Street than any other president. He beat Obama's record of taking money. This guy has got nothing but high corporate special interest in him. He's not fighting for you. And all these bills that they put forth and say, oh, they're going to do this and that, the money never gets to where it needs to go.
Never.
It always ends up in contractors' hands and corporations' hands, and the people are the ones who fucking suffer. We need to blow up the whole fucking system. The whole system. Because it's not just the money that they're going to allot, it's who they allot it to. Will it get to the spots it needs to get to? I mean, really, no, it won't.
Johnny, did you have something?
Well, along the lines of what you were saying, I was just showing my text that this is the new normal. Very, very rarely do governments go back after they're taking away civil liberties. This is what Steve talks about a lot on Slow News Day, and he's told me personally too. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. It's like this doesn't come across, immediately to you when you're thinking about this stuff. And then I'm just showing this. I'm not going to say anything about this, but there you go. Apparently there was that in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And then someone says, I have a serious question. How do we communicate if they blank? How do we mobilize? We need to plan ahead. And I said they took that down in Melbourne. Expect us to come here to the U.S. if y'all don't start fighting back. Yep. This is the new normal. Very rarely do governments go back. You can really look at Australia as the what's going on, what's possible to come.
Precursor, yeah.
What's possible to come
sample,
here.
The plan.
Can I say that in Steve voice? This is the new normal, Johnny Buttons. Very rarely do governments go back after they've taken away civil liberties. I had to do that.
And speaking of Australia, I'm just going to play this video, and you guys can listen to what was said. This is directly from the Australian government.
Guys, this pandemic is serious, you know? Yeah. This is serious.
This is directly from the Australian government.
141 people are in hospital with COVID at present, and 43 are in intensive care, 18 of whom require ventilation. So this is a very serious disease. Of those 141, 60 are under the age of 55, and 28 under the age of 35. And of the 43 people in intensive care, one is in their teens, 7 are in their 20s, 3 are in their 30s, 14 are in their 50s. and 12 are in their 60s, and 6 are in their 70s. So this is affecting people of all ages with very serious disease. All but one are vaccinated. One person has just received 1 dose of vaccine. All but one are vaccinated. One person has just received 1 dose of vaccine. All but one are vaccinated. One person has just received 1 dose of vaccine.
Okay, so you guys heard that. That's directly straight from the COVID update from Australia. I believe that was I forget who this guy is, but an official in Australia, right? Updating the public on that. So just letting you guys know what he said and how relevant it is. Now, the last thing you had was a tweet, correct?
Yeah, and I'm not going to get really big into it too as well. The tyranny you allow this generation will be celebrated in the next. Parker.
What?
When I read to him that headline that Pfizer's early results of their trials are showing that the COVID vaccines are safe and effective for 5 to 11-year-olds.
Okay.
I mean, I withheld from talking about this shit for a while because I don't have a child and whatnot, and I didn't want to be that asshole to say stuff. But what we're fucking doing to the children right now is disgusting. Kim has a video on the whole mask mandate situation, what the governor of New York did. She even went a step further what the CDC and the FDA recommended, which is, first of all, I think it's ridiculous. Kids of ages of 6 and older have to wear a mask. She made a mandate that kids 2 years and older have to wear a mask. Mandated in New York. This is the new York governor.
2-year-old putting something on their face.
It's disgusting what they're
insane.
doing. What we're doing to our children is disgusting. Not from just a psychological point of view too, as well, which is always forgotten about, but the health risk. When these kids are breathing in their own germs all the time that are trapped in that mask, they're gonna get sick.
Okay.
They're gonna get real sick. Sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
Well, yeah, we can't make those claims.
I can't make. Sorry.
That's strictly your opinion, but you're right. No, nobody talks about the psychological effects of what's going on, and we can do an entire discussion on that more deep on Rokfin only. Obviously, we have to be careful with what we're saying, right? Because of YouTube,
ridiculous.
it's fucking insane. It's unnerving and it's disgusting. And I know some of our friends don't like Rokfin because they say it's glitchy. So, we're constantly trying to make sure that Rokfin is doing better and better each time, but we want to make sure to sometimes get this information out to people. If it's information in the mainstream, it should be out to the public, right? They're usually lagging behind, but at least you guys know what we're talking about here. We're talking directly from the CDC, directly from officials in Australia, directly from the administration. All of what's happening is directly related. This is why politicians, who are working on behalf of the establishment need to be called out. So that's that section.
That's it.
Super Rays, or we're good?
Yeah, Kristen Nye, thank you for the Super Ray contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch. Carrie Black said, fam is killing it. Much love. Thank you, Carrie Black. And Carrie Mark says, we are Haiti, scammed by the corporations and the Clinton charity.
True. Carrie
We are
Mark.
all. Hashtag we are all Haiti. Thank you for the 104 people watching over on the Rokfin, the close to 300 people watching on the YouTubes, and our fams also hanging out on Odyssey. Remember, you guys can take our clips, get them out there and share them. We'll have them chopped up individually, so you can share these sections. And I want to thank everybody who's been doing that. That's been awesome and seeing a lot of that. When I do go over to Facebook, and I try not to go over to too often, it's pretty fucking cool to see you guys sharing those things and sharing your opinions on what we have and what we talk about over here. Is that it, Johnny? All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We'll see you next week for Pasta Jardula.
Fiorella.
Johnny Sue on those 1s and 2s.
Combo out.
Peace out, everybody.
Bye.
Eat.